In this video, we're going to look at a normalization exercise, and our example is going to be sort of Nobel Prizes. So we have some sample data here, very little sample data, but we have back in the year 2009, the physics award was shared by three people, and one of these people, Charles Cow, I'm going to say, has two affiliations. So the first thing we do to get a table into a first normal form is to flatten it, to take anything that is multi-valued, like uh, the prize being won by three people or by Charles having two affiliations. We need to sort of create rows in which those are sort of like single things. That's called flattening the table. And then I'm not going to repeat the data and actually flatten the table, but I'm going to now sort of pick a primary key for the flattened table. And so the one sort of rule of thumb to keep in mind is that though something about the repeated thing, something that was from the multi-valued field, is going to have to appear in the primary key. And we're not going to introduce some overall key, maybe in the long run, but not in the short run. So we're going to have a composite primary key, and we need something from the affiliation was a repeated thing, and then uh, the winner, the person, was a repeated thing, and then we always ask. So we know we need the repeat, something representing the repeated thing must be there. So we know we're going to need affiliation. We know we're going to need person. I'm going to say affiliation ID and affiliation or person ID rather than putting in first name and last name. And then we have to ask, uh, is that enough? And if we're going to do sort of the whole, all sort of the history of Nobel Prizes, then the answer is uh, no, because we have to say, so we have a person with affiliation. Can that person with an affiliation win more than one Nobel Prize? And the answer is yes, that there are examples of people either winning certainly different years, but winning in the same category in different years or winning uh, different categories in different years. And so we're going to need that. We're going to need something about the prize as well as the person of affiliation. And when we did this as an in-class exercise, somebody recommended the sort of turn the citation, or I would say a citation ID or something. And that fit. It's not something I would have thought of, but it does fit that they are sort of unique enough. They're not completely unique. You see that Willard and George here have the same citation, but I don't think a citation, they're going to have the same citation from year to year. So I think, it works. Again, not what I would have thought of, but so citation and person and affiliation should be enough, and I turning them into IDs should be a unique thing to pick out a unique row. And then sort of more what I would have thought. I would have thought the combination year category to determine the prize, then the person ID and the affiliation ID. Usually turning things into ID. I think a year and the categories are simple enough. Of course, I think the one sort of the biological one is like physiology or medicine, and we could probably just shorten that to one term. But so you might have a category ID and then have a category description or something. But there we go. All right, so we have our primary key, and the idea of the primary key is this set of things uniquely identify uh, a row, all the entire row, and therefore everything in the row. Now we're looking for things like that, but sort of smaller versions of that. A field or a field or two, determining other things what could be. So we've introduced this sort of person ID, and we know that that's going to determine, the winner first name, whatever I called it, or just F name. I just called it F name. I didn't put winner on it. They are winners, but and last name and their birth does not give the affiliation as we know because Charles here had two affiliations. So it will not pick out the affiliation. The affiliation, and we're making it an ID, will pick out, I'll say there's an affiliation name or something, and the city and the state. It's a little too US centric. I probably should have said region or something, and country. So we get some affiliation stuff. The citation, if we're going that route, the citation ID, I think I said, probably gives you the citation spelled out. There's probably a short version and a long version. Um, what else does it give you? It's going to give you the year. They're probably unique enough to give you the year and the category. Can't spell category. It probably gives you the fraction. I don't think they're going to give them the same citation, and then there's the prize, and there's a monetary amount for the prize, and then if people share the prize, they specify what fraction. Do they all get a third? Did somebody get a half and the other two a quarter, like they're showing here? And so I didn't name that column here, but I'm gonna call it the fraction. And so that's the year, the category, the fraction, some longer citation. That's from the citation index. And then we can turn that uh, around if some of these things go in two ways, some of them only go one way. But if we know the year, if we're thinking of the other um, primary possible candidate key involving the year and the category, if we know the year, the category, and the person ID, then we can get the citation and the fraction from that. So either like if we know the citation doesn't tell us the year, but if we know the year, the category, and the person, it does tell us the citation. So different combinations and different directions can determine things. Okay. So these are some functional dependencies. Again, so the primary key, the set of primary key, the either primary key or its candidate key, gives you everything in the row. But there are sort of little things in the row that can be determined by other things. And then we ask in this normalization process, are any of these partial on the primary key? So let's go with the first primary key, citation, person, affiliation. So there's person, that's part of the primary key, affiliation, that's part of the primary key, citation, that's part of the primary key. So three of these are. And so let me just get that all on one page here in my Word document. So we pick out functional dependencies, and then we're asking, are any of them partial? And it should be a simple compare one, which is the primary key, and two, which is the functional dependencies, and are any of them Are any of these things that are determinant of something else, are they part of the primary key? The answer was yes for a number of them. Are any of them transitive? So transitive is some field or fields A is going to be determinant of some field or fields B, and then B in turn is going to be determinant of some fields C. So can we do anything here? So the person, if anything determines the person, then the person, the year and the category don't determine the person, the affiliation. That's one possibility here, that the affiliation ID, we turned it into an ID, gives us an affiliation name. That gives us a city and state or city and region or something like that. And that probably gives us a country if you really want to go far here. There might be more than one uh, research institute or university in a city, but that city's in the same country. So anything else that we see that we might think of as transitive? Um, you might say, if I know the first name and the last name of the person, I can look up their birth date or something. So you might, I don't know, that's going a little too far here. Anything else that we think is transitive? I'm not sure I'm seeing anything particularly transitive here. We're going to pull out a affiliation, is going to give us location stuff. Person is going to give us first name, last name, birth, and then other stuff is going to give us the sort of the prize. So I think let's stop looking for transitives and let's get on to decomposing the table. So what do we want to do? We have our table. Let's take our, what do we have here? We're going to have a prize table. And that is going to need some kind of ID. We've been calling, let's go with what we said, citation. Or we could just call it prize ID now or so. No, citation, that wasn't exactly the same. So then there's a citation, and then what else are we going to have? The citation, the person. Let's figure out what fields go where after we figure out our tables. There's a person or a winner. There is the prize. There's some affiliation. So these are the institutes, universities, and research institutes that people work for. Then we want to do our many-to-many relationships here. So we want to look at the multiplicity of our relationships. A person, we see for sure in our data that a prize can be won by many people, but we also know, we've discussed, that a person can win many prizes, probably not many, but at least more than one. So we know we're going to need a winner or a person, prize, bridge table to say that the person won the particular prize. So this is going to be person ID. This is going to be affiliation ID. This is going to be a bridge table, so we're going to need the person ID, and we're saying the citation ID. And then we're going to need and again, let's look at the data we have. A person, Charles, can have more than many affiliations, and an affiliation, like Bell Labs, can have many people. So that is a many-to-many relationship and is going to require its own bridge table. So we will say there's a person affiliation. So we'll need a person ID and an affiliation ID. And then what are some of our fields? For the person, we know we have an F first name and a last name. And sometimes it's not a person, sometimes it's a group. Um, Now in 2024, the Peace Prize was won by an organization of Japanese survivors of the nuclear bomb. So it was it's not always a person. So that has to somehow be accommodated when you are like making your tables. That would be sort of what is null and not null. Okay. But birth. Okay. So those were things. What did we have? We had year, category, fraction, citation, first name, last name, birth. So we've come figured out where they go. They go with the person. We have the affiliation, the city, the state, and the country. And we could pull out, we saw that it might be possible to have some further in this sort of transitive of pulling out city, state, country, separating it out a bit. But I'm going to say that that's correct for an academic exercise to probably do that, but for practicality, maybe not so much. So I'm going to leave them all in one table. You can be free to disagree with me. Um, and then what do we need? We need the category and the year and the fraction. So that's going to be up here in prize. So you're going to win. So the citation ought to tell us the category and the year. I think that makes sense, and the fraction. And then there'll be the citation itself. So we'll give it some ID, and then we'll break it down farther. And there's probably a short citation, a long citation, as I said. So I'm just repeating myself. So this is sort of the decomposition on sort of stuff about the prize, stuff about the person, stuff about the affiliation, bridge table relating the person to the prize, a bridge table relating the person to the affiliation. So that's what I would come up with for this. And well, not just me, but I did it as a class exercise. I'm sort of duplicating some of what that discussion. So thanks for your attention.